All right, Melissa, welcome to Entrepreneur Money Stories.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Well, I like to start every single episode with a little bit of your backstory and kind of your mission in the world. So tell the audience a little bit about what you do today and why do you do it? What's your mission?
Yeah, so my mission today is to find ways to impact early stage startups, even more so female founders. And that is rooted in sort of the path that I took to get here, where I've had the opportunity to work at startups, which is an incredibly fast-paced environment with entrepreneurs who are incredibly brilliant with these really amazing ideas and super passionate. And as a marketer, it's a great opportunity to get in at an early stage and really like help them in that moment in time and then see kind of where it goes from there. And it's been an amazing journey for myself and my co-founder, Laura, because we are now, 5 years into this business, and we're seeing founders that we worked with 5 years ago go on to raise Series C, Series
That's really
D,
cool.
and it's like, we know that we were a part of that. It'd be nice to be on that end of it too, but this is like, there's something really special in working with people as they're starting out.
Yeah. All right. So you just said some words that probably our audience isn't familiar with. And one of my questions that I sent over to you was, how do we define that early stage startup? Like, what does that mean to you? And is this pre-funding? Do you only work with people who've received funding? What is it? What does funding even mean? Like, just define it kind of in your terms.
Absolutely. So our clients are typically a tech startup that has raised some pre-seed or seed funding, usually anywhere between $1 and $5 million. So they've got enough money to start doing some marketing, but they don't have enough money to hire a marketing team. And when we work with those clients specifically, our objective is to figure out how to get them to market as quickly as possible and really show demand for the product or service that they've created. So that's really like our primary focus. Now, we do work with entrepreneurs, so any kind of business, in helping them establish two things. One, their brand development, so who they are as a brand, and that comes in the form of like coaching. The second is entrepreneurs who need to establish a marketing foundation, don't understand really where to start. So making sure that their email marketing is set up before they actually start running paid advertising, that they've got the systems in place.
So there's kind of two categories. There's our early stage startup who is going out for funding, they're raising capital. And then there's our entrepreneur who doesn't necessarily have to be early stage, right? Like you could be rebranding, redeveloping, just actual building of the brand of who they are, who they serve, building the foundation before they actually go out and build their business.
Yes, we see a lot of entrepreneurs who are desperate to like get to market, start driving sales, get new customers without taking that step. And like you said, like they could be established businesses, but they've sort of didn't take that step. So they need to take a step back with us, establish that so that the money that they do spend on marketing and sales is actually more effective.
I see that a lot of our clients and a lot of the business owners who I talk to, they are the accidental entrepreneur. They're a practitioner. They are either being asked by friends and family, and then all of a sudden they're in this business and they didn't really necessarily mean to create a business. They've built their business on referrals, and suddenly they're like, oh, hold on. I now own a business. I am running a business, and I forgot to learn the business side of this, right? I'm an awesome practitioner. I got my craft down tight, but I have to learn the business side. And I think that's why I wanted to have you on the show. There's so many pieces of the business, right? There's our financial piece, there's sales and marketing, and then there's operations. And I think so many of these accidental entrepreneurs, they don't know how to do their bookkeeping. They don't know how to do accounting, right? They don't know the first thing about that. And let's face it, they also haven't been trained in marketing, right? They never learned how to do marketing. They never learned how to do sales. They didn't learn how to run the business. And that's why it's so important to take a step back and get that foundation with you.
Absolutely. I think that it's okay that you don't understand marketing. That's why there's experts out there to take care of that for you. And I think the worst thing you could do, there's actually two things that I always say, like if you're, especially an accidental entrepreneur, one, don't assume that you know marketing. Like, even if you can find someone to help mentor you or like you can ask questions to, get the answers to those questions before you start spending money. Because there's so much waste in marketing spend. And it can be even just the simplest thing that those mistakes can happen. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, don't consider yourself your target audience. You might have created something fantastic that you saw the need for, but as you start to build out your product or your service, you have to remember that you know who you are, you know what you're selling. By the time you're, running an ad, the person seeing that ad doesn't know who you are. You have to make the assumption that they know nothing. And you're so close to what you're selling that you forget. And there's pieces that are missed. So those are like the two things, like be careful when you go to spend money and never like assume that you are the target audience. Even though you kind of are, just always remember there's that sort of separation between what you know and what they know.
I sit in the sales and marketing seat of our business, and I find myself repeating myself all the time. And I'm tired of hearing myself, but that doesn't mean that you've heard it, right? Like, as a client, as a listener, like, you might have only heard it one time, or you maybe have never heard it. I just feel like I've said it 7 times.
But that's good. Repetition means retention, right? So we always say, like, have a concise message, something that's clear that people can understand, and then repeat it as often as possible. And you said 7 times. 7 is like such a key number because you want to make sure at least 7 times your customer is hearing that message. So
I'll keep repeating myself for you guys. I got it. I got it. I got it. I'm going to drive myself crazy, but
you have great branding and marketing. So I think you're doing all the right things.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. You talk about brand development and then growth marketing. Can you talk to me about what the difference between those two are? I think that they can be like, we automatically go to growth. So like what does that look like when somebody is working with you? How is it different?
99% of our client work starts with brand development. The only time that it doesn't is if they've done that already. And what that means is we spend the necessary time to establish who you are as a brand so that you have the right messaging in place before you go into growth marketing. Let me kind of explain that a little bit deeper. So when we say brand development, we mean establishing a brand house. So what are your company core values? What is your mission? What is your vision? A lot of people have this, but it's not developed in a way that works towards messaging. Like, that's the ultimate goal. Like, your brand development is like, how am I communicating about my brand? So that's the first piece. The second piece is establishing a brand personality and voice that might be very specific to who you are. So now that, combined with some competitive analysis and target audience persona development, all combined help us identify who you are as a brand, what makes you unique, and how your audience is going to connect with you. So once you have that and you move into messaging, it's all based on each of those different stages of the brand development process. And that means it's completely founded in who you are as a brand. So when you go to run ads, you're not just coming up with something that you think is catchy or something that you think people will, click on because, they think that's interesting. It's more about who you are, the products that you serve, how you're different from your competitors, and why people want to work with you. And so brand development, you do that first, you get your messaging down, then you go and you spend money on growth marketing. So growth marketing can be anything from your paid advertisements, your content marketing, social media marketing, all of those things that are going to help generate brand awareness and initially drive or eventually drive people down the funnel to becoming a customer. But if you don't have the messaging down and the messaging isn't part of who you are as a brand, then that you'll completely miss the mark and it'll be a complete waste of money. That's really the difference.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. That is really helpful. And I do truly believe in building the foundation before we build the house. And I think that's with it, with anything that we're doing in business. I am a quick start. So I am your classic case of entrepreneur visionary where I get an idea and I don't take any of the steps between me and activity. It requires my team to say, whoa, hold on. What are the other 25 steps between here and the finish line? I've learned a lot after 9 years in business to slow down. But anyone who's listening, it's that slow down, build the foundation. What are the steps before we just jump into quick start?
Absolutely. That foundation. And the thing is, like, anytime, so a year, after you've done that, you should basically be going back to that guide and making sure that everything matches up, everything aligns so that you can continue to be effective. I also like slowing down is important, but also don't slow down to the point that you're not getting a market.
Perfection paralysis.
Right. Like
There's a balance.
like, do not do that. We've worked with many founders who just can't move forward, and like then nothing happens.
There's definitely two camps. Yeah. It's either quick starts like me or perfection paralysis. You're stuck in research mode. Yeah, absolutely.
And the good thing too, I think, while we're doing the brand development, we're also thinking about the strategy, right? So like we're looking deeper into the competition and we're looking at the audience and the personas that you're targeting and like, where are they? Where are they listening? Where can you reach them? We're starting to think through those pieces. So on the side, we can start to put together a strategy. And so when that strategy comes together at the end of the brand development, then you can go to market really specific to how you're going to reach that audience. The other piece of that is the budget. And so this is like, I think one of the most important things when you're thinking about how you're going to go to market, think about your budget as a long-term budget. It is not like I have $5,000. How can I use this very quickly? It's more like how much money do I have, between now and the next 12 months? Because marketing is a process. You don't just start spending money and it all just magically happens. You have to learn from it. We usually say at least 6 months. You need 3 months to get in there and start to understand what works and what doesn't work. And then you need another 3 months to optimize against that. So whether that's optimizing your message or, shifting budget to see if one channel is going to perform better than another. So by 6 months is when you should be like fine-tuned to then be, running hopefully at a lower cost per acquisition and, kind of really driving your customers and your sales in the way that makes sense for the business. But it can't just be like, I have this much money, I'm going to go to market. You have to think about it long term.
Well, just one more reason to build out the budget. I mean, our audience has heard me talk about the budget process so many times. Well, at least I feel like I've said it so many times. But it is so important to take a step back and look at what is my revenue? What are my expenses? And plan out the future, plan out the next 12 months. And that's how we can give ourselves permission to spend. Because in my research of money mindset and digging into that topic, I've learned how, there's some people who are quick to spend and are free spenders because they're on a emotional roller coaster and their spending is just part of their roller coaster. So those people might be willing to spend quickly with you, but then not able to watch it come to fruition. So they might want to pull it after 3 months or 4 months because they don't have the patience to see it through. However, there's other people who their money mindset is keeper and they need permission to spend money because they want to hold on to every cent they have, because what if it doesn't come back and they aren't able to actually invest? And so they might not be able to see the patience of that to fruition either, right? Because they're so scared to spend the money. The month 1, 2, they're not seeing the results. They're like, oh my God, put the money back in my checking account.
And there is this high expectation that you're going to see results immediately, but it's marketing is an investment. It's an investment just like an employee. Your employee is not going to be delivering on day one, right? So, how do you make the most of that relationship? And so
that's a perfect flow into my next question for you. I've heard you say we're experts, not consultants. What does that mean to you? Why do you use that as part of your marketing?
For us, so, a lot of the companies that we work with will hire consultants. And the definition of consultant to them is someone who can come in and guide them, in a certain way over a short period of time. What we do that's different is that we have a network called the Collective of contractors who specialize and are experts in very specific areas. So, depending upon your business, your customer, we create different teams that are focused on, that have experience specific to your business and your audience. And we become partners with you. We don't just come in and say, yes, you should do this, or you should go this way or that way. Instead, we're committed as a partner to delivering on those, objectives or whatever the goals are for the company and how marketing impacts those objectives. It's really more about like a group of experts that you have access to with experience versus just someone who understands marketing.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Have you heard yourself saying, I'm scared to invest money in my business because what if it doesn't come back? I don't know how much to pay myself, so I won't take a paycheck yet. I'm reinvesting in the business anyway. Or how about, I'm not going to spend any more money until I know exactly where my money is going. Well, let me tell you, you are not alone. In fact, we have heard all of these stories and more throughout the last 9 years at Kickstart Accounting Inc. And that is why we have created the Money Mindset Mastery Framework to finally unlock and overcome these stories, to finally feel confident in your financial decisions and pay yourself what you deserve. The first step to create a profitable and successful business is to first understand your money mindset. Find out your money mindset personality type by going to kickstartaccountinginc.com/quiz. I can't wait to hear what your money mindset type is. What is a CMO and why would a business want a CMO?
So the CMO role is actually what drove me to start this business, because I was actively applying for CMO roles at startups. And when I would be sort of, my second or third interview with some of these founders, I started to understand how much money they actually had at the time. And I immediately was like, you should not be hiring a CMO. All the money that you're putting into a CMO could be used in so many other ways to achieve your marketing objectives. And so that's when it was like, whoa, we need to get out there and offer these services. And, we actually started with the line that like, we can provide you all of what you need for less than the cost of your first marketing hire. And so when you say, what is a CMO is someone who's running a large team of marketers. So if you're at a point where you're, as a founder or an entrepreneur running a marketing team and now can no longer manage, multiple people, then yes, you need a CMO in there. I think when it also is important is when you really are having marketing being run as a P&L. And that's when you need someone who has that level of experience. A CMO is not someone who's going to come in and just run your content marketing. A CMO is not going to be someone you want actively like posting on social for you. Those are different roles at different levels. The CMO is someone who's going to bring it all together at a very high level. And
strategic, I'm thinking like strategic partner, they're running the strategy, people are implementing.
Right. But they're thinking about it on a financial level. At the end of the day, they're responsible for driving revenue. And so they have to understand it at a very high level, but also be able to run a team effectively, efficiently, so that you're hitting those goals. So to me, you really should be scaling at a level that you're hiring a very like large marketing team to bring in a CMO. I wouldn't bring in a CMO as your first marketing hire.
What about if you are working with several different contractors? So you don't have internal team members. So I think our listeners probably don't even have full-time marketing professionals on their team, but there are several people who might be contractors or other outside team members as part of their marketing team. Would you want a CMO to manage those people or a project manager, or is the founder or somebody internal doing that?
It really depends. Part of what we do, so our goal is always to hopefully get founders to a place where they're hiring their first marketing hire. So we actually help recruit, hire, and train and transfer all the work that we've done to that first marketing hire. And I will say that, and again, like they're working with an agency, they're working with contractors, so a very similar situation. What we usually try to do is understand what kind of marketing they're doing and like what is the right marketing hire, because there's all different kinds of marketing. There's product marketing, there's brand marketing, there's growth marketing, there's performance marketing, there's demand gen marketing. You really want to hire someone specific to what you're doing. I wouldn't necessarily say that it needs to be an executive level. You can bring in a director level individual who can help to manage the contractors that you're working with. But like, are you doing mostly content marketing? Is that where you're spending most of your time? Are you still defining your product market fit? Maybe that's more of a product marketing person. Maybe there's a hybrid. So to me, it's like a director level at that stage is usually what we are shooting for when we're hiring for our clients. And it's a mix or a very specific type of marketer. So it's more about that than it is the level. The other thing I will say is this. I think it's really important to think about the carrot, right? Of like, get somebody who's maybe ready, not exactly ready to be a VP or CMO level, but will kind of show and prove to you that they can do that, and bring them in at a lower level, let them, really kick butt for 6 months to a year, and then
let them grow. Yeah. What key performance indicators do you track for your clients? Like, how do they see success, right? Like,
so there's a million KPIs. And if Laura, my co-founder, was here, she'd be like, oh, let's talk data. Marketers, I'm a brand marketer. She's a data marketer. So, there's marketers that just like love this question. It's different for everyone. But what I will say is everybody should be tracking cost per acquisition by channel. So we call it CPA, right? So if you're running paid media, what is your LinkedIn cost per acquisition? What is it costing you to get that customer in that channel? Number one, always should be looking at that. Now, there's other KPIs that help you understand if those campaigns are performing, whether it's social media or search. There's a level of different KPIs that you can look into, but at the end of the day, you should know how much you're paying for your customer.
Can I pause? So you mentioned by channel, but I want to give people a really, really easy way to calculate this, like right now, right? Like you can add this to your KPI deck tomorrow. A really, really easy way to be able to do this would be to take your profit and loss statement, and you tell me if you disagree, right? So take your profit and loss. I like to do the profit and loss by month. So we can look at the last 12 months and add together your advertising and marketing costs, right? I like to add all of them together. So when we set up the chart of accounts for our clients, we group all of the marketing categories together. It's part of our setup and onboarding process. That way we can easily take that amount, that subtotal, and divide it by the number of new clients or products sold each and every month. So you can really, really quickly get that number by dividing total marketing divided by number of new clients. Do you agree?
So that's what we call CAC, like consumer acquisition costs, right? So it's a little bit different. And this can be very confusing at times. Yes. So that was where I was going to go next, is actually when you look at CAC, it really should be over time. You want to look at it monthly, like you were just saying, take all those costs, how many customers you have, what was your total consumer acquisition costs. It's a total number, right? You're looking at all costs involved. And to me, it's good to look at it monthly, but it's even more important to look at it on a quarterly and an annual basis. The cost per acquisition is very specific to the channel. So what is your LinkedIn cost per acquisition? What is your...
All right, define the costs that go into LinkedIn. So if I'm running ads, I'm paying for the ads, I'm paying maybe the service provider, right? My contractor or consultant or team member. No, just ads.
Literally just the cost of the ads.
Okay.
So that's the difference. Like what you're saying is a consumer acquisition cost, CAC, is pulling in everything that goes into it. The cost per acquisition is literally like I'm spending, let's say I'm doing a billboard. I'm spending $5,000 on that billboard.
Okay.
Now I get, you get 3 customers from it, and then that's a ridiculous
Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's
acquisition.
perfect.
You should be getting
So,
more.
so somebody would have to be tracking the data to know where their clients are coming in from. So I hear a lot of the resistance, and that's why I'm playing devil's advocate for listeners, because I hear a lot of resistance when I start talking KPIs with clients. They'll say, yeah, but then how do I know which clients came from the billboard? Maybe they saw the billboard, but then they looked at my Instagram, and when they told me where they came from, they put Instagram. So I think that the billboard didn't actually work. I think Instagram's working better than the billboard. What would you say to that person?
That means if that person is really concerned, then they should be building an attribution model. And that is a very complex way of looking at the different touches that you have with your consumer. I don't think a lot of people are thinking that way. The reason I say, like, look, yes, we're working with clients on attribution models, and it's a fantastic way to have a better understanding of what that means. But let's say that you're running LinkedIn ads, you're running social media, Facebook ads, you're running, Google AdWords, you're doing newsletter insertions, from a digital media standpoint, where you can definitely track how much you're spending on those ads, and you can track the conversions from them. Then you can see, okay, well, my cost per acquisition for each of these channels is broken down, and I can see I'm spending $100 per customer in LinkedIn, but I'm only spending $10 a customer on Google. Then you can shift your budget accordingly. You can say, you know what, I think that we'll get more out of Google at this $10 cost per acquisition. So it's more about understanding how the channels are performing against each other so that you can adjust your budget accordingly. If you're not going to build out an attribution model, then looking at CAC in general should give you an idea of how well your marketing is performing as a whole.
All right. So if you could give the audience something to go do right now, like if there's one metric, one thing that they could start tracking, like some action steps that they can do right now, what would you recommend?
So exactly what you said about the P&L and getting that CAC number in there, start doing that now. Because again, it's something that you can look at over time. And so you don't want to wait to do that. So do that first. And then second, whoever is running your paid digital media, you must request from them a weekly report that shows you at a minimum your cost per acquisition for each channel.
Is there a golden number that we want to be at?
It varies. So
I hate when people ask me that, but I'm like, I have to ask, right?
It varies. So I can tell you that a consumer app, so if you were running app download ads on Apple, $1 per download is a very good KPI for a consumer app. I've seen it lower and I've seen it higher. But again, it's like how much money, what are you getting from your customer at the end of the day? If your app download is a $50 download, then is $1 good enough for you? I mean, you have to understand those metrics. But I would say ads that are running for app downloads for consumer app, $1. Now, if you're a SaaS company, and selling to enterprise clients and you're running LinkedIn ads, our goal is always to get below $100 cost per acquisition. We have clients that are at $250, $500, but again, their average deal size is, $5,000 to $10,000 per contract. So it always comes down to your goals, no matter what. Whatever you want to achieve in marketing, make sure it's funneling right up to your revenue goals or your deal goals. Whatever that is, should be where you start.
Okay. So it depends on how your price point for your products and services.
First and foremost, this is how much revenue I want to drive. This is how many customers I need to get that revenue. This is what it costs for me to acquire a customer. Where that CAC number comes into play. If I know that on a monthly basis, it might cost me, $200 to acquire a customer based on the marketing spend that I have, then you can input those numbers very easily to understand what's going to happen in your marketing to drive those revenue goals.
What are the key performance indicators that you're looking at in your business? Because we are talking to business owners, and There's, a website out there, the 1001 KPIs. Like no business owner should be looking at them. So what are the few things that you look at to know that if you're hitting your numbers or not?
Yeah. So our business is primarily driven through referrals. So it's very different. So we've attempted to run paid media. We've attempted to do all the things that we do for our clients and learned over time that it really doesn't provide us the quality customer that we get from referrals. So we spend a lot of time focusing on where our referrals come from. And a lot of them are activated through some of what we do in social media. A lot of them are active. So basically, and when I say activated, our social media marketing efforts remind our referrers that we're here. And that has been one of the most effective channels for us. So a KPI specific to that would be, all right, if we engage with a post, how much reach do we get? If we publish our own post, what is the reach that we get from it? Sometimes we look at engagement, but it seems that as long as someone's seeing it, that referral will come through. So reach in social is one of our primary KPIs. And the frequency of that reach. So making sure that we're doing at least something once a week that's giving us the reach that we need to activate those referrals. And the second is our email marketing efforts. So we have a newsletter and we always get at least one referral or, one person contacting us when we send out a newsletter. So we know that we're going to look at our click-through data and assess like the performance of that email that we've sent. One thing that we're doing now is we're going to segment our emails even further to be more customized in how we talk to the different people in our network. So there'll be more KPIs that come from that. But first and foremost, it's, what's the reach in social? And then the second is, what is our click-through rate on email?
Thank you for sharing that. I know it's never easy to answer that question, but it's behind the scenes. And I've really been trying to lead by example. It's been an initiative of ours to kind of take people behind the scenes, because showing people that we practice what we preach and that we look at the same things and how do you actually use them. So if you saw that your newsletters, you weren't getting the active referrals, or you saw that your reach was down, like what actions would you take?
Yeah.
To fix that.
Yeah. And we have this year, we've taken a few different. So with our social media, we changed out who was running our social media. And we have somebody on the team now that understands how to engage directly with our target audience and our referrers. So it's a little bit less on just publishing to publish, and it's more direct. And then on the email marketing, like I just mentioned, we're seeing those click-through rates go down. So now we're thinking, okay, we can get more customized by segmenting. And so we're making a change in that way. And I bet a year from now, we'll be making all different changes again. It might be a totally different thing. Oh, and here's something, I don't think everybody knows this, but on LinkedIn, you have credits to grow your audience. These are two great marketing tricks on LinkedIn for anybody. One, go in every month, you have like 250 credits. Go in and invite, use all your credits. Every time somebody follows you on LinkedIn, you get a new credit. So you should be using those regularly.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah. So, and literally you have to remind yourself, like go in every day and invite as many people as you can. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you post a job on LinkedIn, if somebody is applying to the job, there's an opportunity for them to follow you in that process. And so you can gain followers just by job posting. I mean, you don't want to just job post to get followers, but think about it strategically when you do, because you can easily generate, a couple hundred new followers, in a day with a job post.
All right, last question. I like to ask all of our guests, because money mindset is everything. How do you keep your money mindset strong? No one's business is always on a hockey stick. There are good months, there are bad months. How do you keep your money mindset strong so you keep on showing up for your team and your clients?
Well, I mean, my money mindset is based on the fact that I am a marketer and that I understand budgeting And the second I started my business, it was important to me to really understand my budget as a whole, mainly at first to think about how I can, segment out what I needed to market our business. It shifted pretty quickly though to, okay, I want to hire more people, and when can I do that? And thinking about things long term. So my money mindset is a combination of this long term, I want to be here, I want to be doing this, I want, these are the things I want, and how can I get there? And then in the short term, what are the pieces that not only help me get there, but help me to understand my business? And you know this very well, on a weekly basis. I was originally looking at cash flow as my most important sort of barometer to what could happen potentially in the future with my budget. I went from monthly to looking at that weekly just because of the challenges that my business has faced over, the course of the 5 years of our business. And now it actually gives me comfort, when I'm thinking about my long-term budget, just seeing how things are moving in that bottom line on a weekly basis.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. We need to hear it because everybody's strategy is a little bit different and what they're looking at and how they're keeping strong. So I really appreciate you sharing your money mindset journey. Well, this has been really enlightening. I know I've learned a lot. Where can listeners stay in touch with you, learn more about you and your business?
So our company is 5'2" Marketing. So if you go to 5'2" Marketing, all spelled out.
Where did that name come from?
Laura and I are both 5'2", and when we were doing our brand development, we both have had babies, and we were like looking at each other. I was like, our bodies are like very similar. I'm like, how tall are you? And like we just kind of went on a tangent from there, where it was like, big things come in small packages, and all the like little taglines that we could think of just like came together from 5'2". And it's a conversation starter, so we went with it.
I love it.
Short but sweet. So 5'2marketing.com is our website. And anybody is welcome to email me at melissa@5'2marketing.com. Again, all spelled out. I'm happy to chat marketing anytime.
If you enjoyed today's episode, I asked for you to do one thing in return. I would love if you could like and subscribe and share this podcast episode with one other person who can use this information. I am looking forward to our podcast next week. We'll see you there.